Folk of Nottingham classes. Welcome to today's lesson, our English lesson on Once in a Lifetime by John Gullidge. This is our 8th lesson of 15 lessons. Okay, I want you to make sure that you've got a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper or your home learning book. Go and get those things together and then press play and continue the lesson. Press pause now. Okay, so I'm going to read my writing to you. When I'm reading my writing to you, I want you to try and identify the feature in red, and I want you to think about what is it doing to my writing. I want you to follow along when I'm reading. A couple of hours later, there I was minding my own business when suddenly I heard the strangest noise. It was like singing, but so high-pitched. Immediately my heart began to race and my breathing quickened. I reached for my trusty telescope, which confirmed that I hadn't imagined it at all. There at the port side appeared a bale of flying sea turtles. It was crazy. Before long they glided majestically past the ship like giant lily pads floating on calm water. Okay, I want you to have a little think. What is the feature in red and what is it doing to my writing? And then press play and continue the lesson. Press pause now. Okay, so you're back. Have you identified the feature in red? Let's see if you've worked out today's LO. Today's LO is to use time-fronted adverbial so the reader knows when something happens. We go back a couple of hours later, immediately and before long. They are all time-fronted adverbials. Okay, so before we begin, let's just remind ourselves what a main clause is. A main clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb which makes sense on its own. I'm going to say that first and then I want you to have a turn. My turn. A main clause is a group of words that contains a subject and verb which makes sense on its own. Your turn. Okay, great. Now let's have a look at a main clause. Here we go. Here's my sentence. And it is, the boy ate some chocolate. So what is the subject there? What's the sentence about? And what's the doing word? What's the verb? Can you identify those? Let's have a look and see. The boy is the subject. That's what the sentence is about. And what did he do? Well, he ate some chocolate. So there we go, and you can add things to the sentence to make it better. You could say, the curious boy ate some delicious chocolate, and have your expanded noun phrases there. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to be adding time-fronted adverbials so that we know when something happened. After dinner, the boy ate some chocolate. Before bedtime, the boy ate some chocolate. Okay. Let's just remind ourselves of what an adverbial is. I want you to have a little think. Go back into your long-term memory from our learning in the autumn term and think, what is an adverbial? Say your answer out loud and then write it down on a piece of paper or in your home learning book. What is an adverbial? Press pause now. Okay, great, you're back. What did you put for an adverbial? Well, I've said a word or phrase that gives more information about a verb or clause. A word or phrase that gives more information about a verb or clause. Let's do it together. A word or phrase that gives more information about a verb or clause. A word or phrase that gives more information about a verb or clause. That is what an adverbial is. Okay, I want you to really remember that sentence. Okay, because the next question is, what is a fronted adverbial? What is a fronted adverbial? Have a little think. Say your answer out loud, then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. What is a fronted adverbial? Press pause now. Okay, great. So a fronted adverbial is an adverbial word or phrase that comes at the front of the sentence. So we're going to say it a bit like this. An adverbial word or phrase that comes at the front of a sentence. An adverbial word or phrase that comes at the front of a sentence. Let's do it together. An adverbial word or phrase that comes at the front of a sentence. An adverbial word or phrase that comes at the front of a sentence. that is what a fronted adverbial is. Okay, brilliant. So now we want to know what a time-fronted adverbial is. I want you to have a little think, to say your answer out loud, and then to make a note of it on your home learning books or on your piece of paper. What is a time-fronted adverbial? Do that now. Press pause. Okay, great, you're back. So what is a time-fronted adverbial? A time-fronted adverbial tells us when something happens. It comes at the front of a sentence. Let's say that together. A time-fronted adverbial tells us when something happens. It comes at the front of the sentence. A time-fronted adverbial tells us when something happens. It comes at the front of the sentence. And that part, when, is really important. That's the time part. The time-fronted adverbial tells us when something happens. Okay, so, right, who can remember back into the autumn term and why do we use time-fronted adverbials in our writing? What's so good about time-fronted adverbials? I want you to have a little think and say your answer out loud and then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Why do we use time-fronted adverbials in our writing? Press pause now. Okay, super, you're back. And here's the answer. Well, it gives the reader more information, yes, and it lets them know when something happened, when it happened. It gives them more information. Is that what you put? Well done if you did. If you didn't, just take a note of that in your home learning book. Okay, so now I've got a sentence that includes a time-fronted adverbial. I want you to try and identify that time-fronted adverbial. I'm going to say the sentence to you, and then I want you to identify the time-fronted adverbial and write it down in your home learning books or on your piece of paper. So, later that morning, I pulled up the anchor to set sail. Later that morning, I pulled up the anchor to set sail. Identify the time-fronted adverbial now. Press pause. Okay, so have you written your time-fronted adverbial down? Let's have a look. Later that morning, that's when it happened. So the time-fronted adverbial is later that morning. Well done if you got that correct. If you did, give yourselves a little tick. If you didn't, press pause and fix it now. Okay. My next sentence, I want you to identify the time-fronted adverbial in this sentence. As I pulled up the anchor, I heard a strange noise coming from behind me. As I pulled up the anchor, I heard a strange noise coming from behind me. What is the time-fronted adverbial in that sentence? Have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write down the time-fronted adverbial in your books. As I pulled up the anchor, I heard a strange noise coming from behind me. Press pause now. Okay, so when did it happen? It happened as I pulled up the anchor. That is my time-fronted adverbial. Well done if you got that right. Give yourselves a little tick or press pause and fix it. And then press play and continue. Okay, my next sentence. Just then, I saw a bale of turtles heading in my direction. Just then, I saw a bale of turtles heading in my direction. What is the time-fronted adverbial in that sentence? I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write it down in your home learning books or your piece of paper. What is the time-fronted adverbial in that sentence? Press pause now. Okay, great. And you should have said just then. When did it happen? It happened just then. Just then is the time-fronted adverbial. Okay, so now we're going to continue to explore time-fronted adverbials. I've got a sentence here, and first of all, I would like you to add a time-fronted adverbial. I'd like you to tell me when it happened. The sentence is, my rudder fell from the boat. My rudder fell from the boat. But when did it happen? I want you to have a little think, and then I'd like you to say your answer out loud. You're going to add a time-fronted adverbial to that sentence, and then you're going to write it down in your book. So the time-fronted adverbial and the sentence, the main clause in your books. Okay, so my rudder fell from the boat. Add your time-fronted adverbial. Press pause now. Okay, great. So you're back. So you might have said it happened after lunch, before dinner, as I was taking off. When did it happen? Okay, so we're going to continue looking at this picture. I have written two different fronted adverbials. One of these is a fronted adverbial is here we go. I'm going to underline them there. One of these fronted adverbials is time-fronted adverbials. One of them isn't. I want you to recognise which one is the time-fronted adverbial. Is it sentence 1? Early in the morning, my rudder fell from the ship. Or is it sentence number 2? Without warning, my rudder fell from the ship. Okay, so I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then make a note of it in your home learning book or on your piece of paper. Which one of those has the time-fronted adverbial? Press pause now. Okay, you're back. So when did the rudder fall from the ship? Well, it happened early in the morning. You should have identified the first sentence. Well done if you got that right. Okay, we're going to do this again with this sentence. I took out my faithful telescope. But when did I take out my faithful telescope? I want you to add a time-fronted adverbial to that sentence. So remember, it goes at the front of the sentence. I took out my faithful telescope. But when did I do that? I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Press pause now. Okay, great, you're back. So when did it happen? Well, I've written two different examples here, or two different sentences here. They've both got fronted adverbials, but which one of those fronted adverbials is a time-fronted adverbial? Which one tells us when it happened? Let's have a look at sentence number 1. Quickly, I took out my faithful telescope. And sentence number 2. All of a sudden, I took out my faithful telescope. Which one tells you when that happened? I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and make a note of it in your home learning book or on your piece of paper. Press pause now. Okay, so when did it happen? It happened all of a sudden. Quickly is a manner-fronted adverbial. It tells you how it happened. It happened quickly. But if you want to know when it happened all of a sudden. Okay, another sentence for us to look at. You're going to write your time-fronted adverbial first. I grabbed my trusty rope. But when? When did you grab your trusty rope? I grabbed my trusty rope. I want you to put a time-fronted adverbial at the front of that sentence. I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write your answer down. Press pause now. Okay, great, you're back. And when did you put down that the explorer grabbed his trusty rope? Let's have a look at my two sentences. One of these sentences is correct, and the other one has got a fronted adverbial, but not a time-fronted adverbial. Okay, so let's just identify the fronted adverbials first. They're there at the front of the sentence. I've got the comma there to separate them from the main clause. Which one of them tells us when? Let's read sentence number 1. At the front of the ship, I grabbed my trusty rope. And sentence 2. Immediately, I grabbed my trusty rope. Which one tells us when? Okay, I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Press pause now. Okay, you're back. And so at the front of the ship or immediately, which one of those is a time-fronted adverbial? And of course, it's immediately. When did it happen? It happened immediately. Where did it happen? It happened at the front of the ship. That is a place-fronted adverbial. It tells us where. But we want to know when it happened. Well done if you got that right. Okay, I've got another sentence here. This sentence is, my trusty rope snapped. My trusty rope snapped, but when? When did my trusty rope snap? I want you to have a little think about a time-fronted adverbial for that sentence. I want you to say your answer out loud, then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. My trusty rope snapped. Press pause now. Okay, you're back. So you could have had lots of different time-fronted adverbials. You could have said, as the turtles flew away, or early that evening. That would tell you when it happened. I wonder what you put down. Well, I have done two different sentences here, and they both have a fronted adverbial. They're a verbial phrase at the front of a sentence, but one of them is a time-fronted adverbial, and one of them isn't. Okay, I want you to have a little think. We're going to read the sentences first. Sentence 1, without warning, my trusty rope snapped. And sentence number 2, in the blink of an eye, my trusty rope snapped. Which one of those has got a time-fronted adverbial at the beginning of it? And I want you to have a little think. Say your answer out loud. Then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Press pause now. Okay, great. And you should have said, in the blink of an eye, my trusty rope snapped. When did it happen? It happened in the blink of an eye. How did it happen? It happened without warning, but that's a manner-fronted adverbial. And we're looking at time-fronted adverbials. We want to know when it happened. Okay, and finally, let's have a look. So my sentence is, I leapt off my ship. But when did I leap off my ship? When did that happen? I want you to tell me when by adding a time-fronted adverbial. I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write it down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. I want you to add a time-fronted adverbial to that sentence. I leapt off my ship. Press pause now. Okay, and you're back, and you might have said, as the turtle flew by, I leapt off my ship, or just before sunset, I leapt off my ship. It's going to tell us when it happened. Right, so I've got two sentences here. They've both got fronted adverbials. One of them is a time-fronted adverbial, one of them isn't. Okay, let's have a look at sentence number 1. Which one tells us when it happened? As the turtle flew directly below me, I leapt off my ship. Or is it sentence number 2? Without hesitation, I leapt off my ship. Which one of those tells us when? I want you to have a little think, say your answer out loud, and then write it down on a piece of paper in your home learning book. Which one of those is the time-fronted adverbial? Press pause now. Okay, super. And you should have told me that sentence number 1 has the time-fronted adverbial. As the turtle flew directly below me, that's when it happened. That's when I leapt off my ship. Without hesitation is a manner-fronted adverbial. It tells us how. How did I do it? I did it. I leapt off my ship without hesitation. It's manner. But we're looking at when. We're looking at time-fronted adverbials. Okay, so this is when we're going to be testing ourselves to see how well we know time-fronted adverbials. I want you, in your books, just like we do at school, to write 1, 2, and 3. And then next to it, you're going to put a tick or a cross as to whether that sentence has got a time-fronted adverbial. Okay, write down number 1 and then tick or cross. Does it include a time-fronted adverbial? And then you could even say how you know. The sentence is, a few hours later, I heard something in the distance. A few hours later, I heard something in the distance. Now I want you to write number 2, tick or cross. Does the sentence include a time-fronted adverbial? As he flew past, I lassoed the rope around his shell. As he flew past, I lassoed the rope around his shell. Tick or cross. And number 3, tick or cross. Without hesitation, I leapt onto the giant turtle's back. Without hesitation, I leapt onto the giant turtle's back. Does that have a time-fronted adverbial, tick or cross? I want you to do that now, and then press play and continue the lesson. Press pause. Okay, great. So you're back. Let's have a look at the answers. So, a few hours later is the fronted adverbial. Does it tell us when? As he flew past is the fronted adverbial, but does it tell us when? And without hesitation is the fronted adverbial, but does it tell us when? Let's have a look. A few hours later, when did it happen? A few hours later, yes. Number 2, as he flew past. When did it happen? It happened as he flew past. Fantastic, that one was correct. And without hesitation, when did it happen without hesitation? That doesn't sound right, does it? How did it happen without hesitation? So it's a manner-fronted adverbial. That one is incorrect. Well done if you put tick, tick, cross. Okay, so I've identified time-fronted adverbials. That all I'm saying that all of these sentences have got time-fronted adverbials. I want you to tell me if I'm right. Let's have a look and see. In your books or on your piece of paper, write down 1, 2, and 3, and next to it, tick or cross, am I correct? Have I identified the time-fronted adverbial? Number 1, just then I took out my telescope to see what was coming from the distance. Just then I took out my telescope to see what was coming from the distance. Did I get that right or wrong? Tick or cross. Number 2, tick or cross. From the distance, many turtles were flying towards me. From the distance, many turtles were flying towards me. Is that a tick or cross? Have I identified the time-fronted adverbial? And number 3, tick or cross. Quickly I ran and got some long rope. Quickly I ran and got some long rope. Have I identified a time-fronted adverbial? Tick or cross. If I got it incorrect, I want you to tell me which type of fronted adverbial I've written. Okay, do that now. Press pause. Okay, so you're back. So just then I took out my telescope. When did it happen? It happened just then. I got it right. Fantastic. From the distance, many turtles were flying towards me. When did it happen? From the distance? No, that's incorrect. I got that one wrong. I wonder if you were able to tell me that I got that one wrong and that I'd said a place-fronted adverbial for that. Quickly I ran and got some long rope. Quickly. When did it happen? It happened quickly. No. How did it happen? It happened quickly. That's a manner-fronted adverbial. I got that one wrong as well. Well done if you got tick, cross, cross, and well done if you were able to tell me that from the distance was a place-fronted adverbial and quickly was a manner-fronted adverbial. That was great if you managed to tell me that. Okay, so now it's time to get on with some of our learning and time for you to do some more time-fronted adverbial work in your books. What you're going to do is this. You're going to choose one of these pictures, and we do this sometimes at school. And I want you to think of some time-fronted adverbials and some sentences that match that picture. And I would like you to do this 4 times. So you're going to choose one picture and write 4 different sentences. Each of your sentences must have a time-fronted adverbial at the front included in the sentence. Okay, I want you to have a little think about which picture you're going to choose. Then before you write your sentence with your time-fronted adverbial, I'd like you to say it out loud and then you write it down. And then you do that 4 times. Okay, press pause now. Okay, great. And so well done if you've managed to get 4 sentences there with time-fronted adverbials. That's going to be really helpful when we begin our writing tomorrow. Because tomorrow we're going to be beginning our diary writing. We're going to be thinking about the 3 features that we've done and learned about this week. On Monday, we learned about first person and using first person in diary writing. And then yesterday, we learned about using chatty language and formal language. And today, time-fronted adverbials, so we can tell the reader when something is happening in the diary. Okay, I want you to have a really good look when you're reading at time-fronted adverbials that the authors that you're reading have used. When we're looking at the BFG, try and see if you can identify any in your book. You could make a note of these time-fronted adverbials in your home learning book, and you could use them in your own writing. Okay, well done for coming along to today's lesson. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.